Jake Sullivan is in a Thai hospital with a severe, life-threatening leg infection. His leg is grotesquely swollen with a large abscess and red streaks of blood poisoning. His fever is dangerously high. The doctor explains that the infection started from a small cut Jake got while shaving his legs 5 days earlier in Seattle. He then flew to Thailand and went swimming, exposing the open wound to aggressive tropical bacteria in the ocean water. The combination of the initial cut, the travel, and the exposure to the water caused the infection to explode. The story flashes back to show Jake shaving with a dull razor before his vacation, nicking his shin. He dismissed the small cut, wanting everything to be perfect for his trip with his girlfriend, Mia. Now, that minor incident has led to a medical emergency requiring immediate surgery to save his leg and possibly his life. Jake dismissed a small ingrown hair on his shin as a minor issue before his big trip to Thailand. A few days later, the bump grew larger and more painful. Wanting it gone for his vacation, he used dirty tweezers to dig the hair out, creating an open wound. The wound became infected, turning red, hard, and painful. Despite knowing it was serious, Jake decided not to cancel the expensive, highly anticipated trip with his girlfriend, Mia. He convinced himself it would heal, prioritizing the vacation over his health. This decision sets the stage for the medical crisis described in the opening. On the day of his flight, Jake's leg infection had worsened dramatically, swelling to the size of a golf ball. Despite knowing he needed immediate medical care, he chose not to cancel the expensive, non-refundable trip to Thailand with his girlfriend, Mia. He hid the severity of his condition from her. The flight was agonizing, and the infection worsened in the confined space. By the time they landed in Bangkok, Jake could barely walk due to the pain and severe swelling. He had prioritized the vacation over his health, arriving at their beautiful resort in the midst of a full-blown medical crisis. Upon arriving at the resort, Jake's leg infection had worsened dramatically. Despite the severe swelling and pain, he hid it from Mia and joined her in the ocean and pool. The warm, bacteria-filled water entered his open wound, drastically accelerating the infection. By evening, red streaks, lymphangitis, appeared, signaling the infection was spreading into his bloodstream. He developed a fever but still tried to dismiss it. The next morning, Jake woke up feeling severely ill, having allowed a serious medical condition to become life-threatening by prioritizing the vacation over seeking help. His fever had climbed to 102 degrees Fahrenheit, his leg was so swollen he could barely bend it, and the abscess at the center had grown to the size of a softball, a grotesque, hard mass that dominated his entire shin. He couldn't hide it anymore. When he came out of the bathroom limping severely, Mia took one look at his face and knew something was terribly wrong. "Jake, what's going on?" He sat on the bed and rolled up his board shorts to show her his leg. Mia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh my God, Jake, what is that?" "It started as an ingrown hair before we left. It's gotten infected." "That's not just infected, Jake, that's serious." "When did this start?" 5 days ago. 5 days, and you didn't tell me. You came on this trip knowing you had an infection." "I thought it would get better." "Get better? Look at it." Tears were forming in Mia's eyes. "Jake, we need to go to a hospital, right now." "But the trip." "Forget the trip, look at your leg, this is serious." Jake wanted to argue, wanted to suggest they wait one more day, wanted to salvage what they could of their vacation, but he looked down at his leg, at the massive, angry swelling, at the red streaks creeping toward his knee, at the dark patches of skin that suggested tissue was dying, and knew he was out of options. "Okay," he whispered, "okay, let's go." The taxi ride to the hospital took 20 minutes. Jake's fever climbed throughout the ride. By the time they arrived, he was shaking with chills despite the tropical heat. The hospital was modern, clean, and well-staffed, a private facility that catered to international patients, with English-speaking staff and Western-trained doctors. Dr. Benjamin Walsh examined Jake's leg and didn't waste time with pleasantries. "This is a severe soft tissue infection with possible necrotizing fasciitis. You have lymphangitis, see these red lines? That's infection in your lymphatic vessels. Your blood work shows elevated white blood cells and signs of systemic infection. You're developing sepsis." Sepsis, Mia's voice was small, terrified. Severe infection in the bloodstream, it's life-threatening if not treated aggressively. Dr. Walsh looked at Jake. "How long have you had this?" 5 days, it started as an ingrown hair. "And you came to Thailand with it?" "I thought it would get better." "Did you swim, go in the ocean?" Jake nodded miserably. Dr. Walsh closed his eyes briefly, as if struggling to maintain his professional composure. You exposed an open wound to tropical ocean water. The bacteria here, Vibrio species, marine organisms, are extremely aggressive in warm temperatures, combined with the humidity, the delayed treatment, and the fact that your immune system is fighting organisms it's never encountered before. He gestured at Jake's leg. This is the result. We need to operate immediately. Operate. The abscess needs to be surgically drained. It's too deep and too large for bedside drainage. We're talking about a significant pocket of infection that's extended into your muscle tissue. If we don't remove it, the infection will continue to spread. You could lose your leg, or your life. The words hung in the air, lose your leg, lose your life, all because Jake had picked at an ingrown hair with dirty tweezers and then ignored every warning sign his body had given him. Within an hour, Jake was being prepped for surgery. They'd already started him on broad-spectrum 4 antibiotics, but Dr. Walsh emphasized that antibiotics alone wouldn't be enough. The abscess had to be physically removed. Jake called his mom while lying in the pre-op area. "Mom, I'm in a hospital in Thailand." Linda Sullivan's voice went from sleepy to panicked instantly. "What, Jake, what happened? Are you okay?" "I have an infection in my leg. They have to do surgery." "Surgery, Jake, what? How did this happen?" It's a long story, but I'm okay. They're taking good care of me." He tried to sound brave, but his voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Mom." The operating room was cold and bright. As the anesthesiologist placed the mask over his face, Jake's last thought was of the clear blue ocean he had swum in just days ago. The world dissolved into a chemical haze. Dr. Walsh made a long, deep incision along Jake's shin. Immediately, a torrent of foul-smelling yellowish pus erupted. The abscess was larger and deeper than the scans had shown, tunneling between muscle groups. He meticulously debrided the infected tissue, washing the cavity with liters of saline solution. The surgery took over 2 hours. When Jake woke in the recovery room, his leg was heavily bandaged and felt strangely light. The immense pressure finally gone, Mia was by his side, her face pale but smiling with relief. The surgery went well, Dr. Walsh told them. "We removed a significant amount of infected tissue. The culture will tell us exactly what we're dealing with, but we're confident we caught it in time." The recovery was long and painful. Jake spent a week in the hospital in Thailand before he was stable enough to fly home, his leg in a bulky dressing. The dream vacation had become a medical nightmare, costing them thousands of dollars and leaving Jake with a permanent, jagged scar down his shin, a lifelong reminder that a small neglect can have catastrophic consequences. He learned the hard way that bravery isn't about ignoring pain, it's about facing reality, even when it's inconvenient. And sometimes, the most dangerous thing on a tropical adventure isn't in the water, it's the infection festering under your own skin. "I'm in a good hospital, Mia's here with me. Do you need me to fly there? I can get on a plane." "No, Mom, I'm okay. I just wanted you to know, in case something goes wrong." He heard his mother start to cry. An hour later, Jake was unconscious in an operating room while Dr. Anung Thaksin, a Thai surgeon with 30 years of experience, made a 4-inch incision down his shin. The amount of pus that drained out was staggering. The abscess had created a massive cavity, destroying tissue as it expanded. Dr. Thaksin drained cup after cup of thick, greenish-yellow pus mixed with dead tissue and blood. The infection had penetrated deep past the skin, past the subcutaneous fat, into the muscle itself. The surgeon had to cut away necrotic tissue, clean out pockets of infection, and flush the entire area with liters of antibiotic solution. The wound was so large and deep that closing it would trap bacteria inside. Instead, Dr. Thaksin left it open, a gaping crater in Jake's shin roughly the size of an orange, and packed it with sterile gauze. A drainage tube was inserted to allow continued fluid removal. The surgery took 2 hours. When Jake woke up in recovery, his leg was bandaged from ankle to knee, with a tube sticking out that led to a collection container already half full of blood-tinged fluid. Mia was there, her eyes red from crying. "Hey," she said softly, "you're okay, you made it through." Jake tried to speak, but his mouth was too dry. A nurse gave him ice chips. "Your leg," Mia started, then stopped. "They had to remove a lot of tissue, but they saved it. You still have your leg." Jake spent 3 days in the ICU. The infection had been so severe that his body went into mild septic shock, his blood pressure dropped dangerously low, his organs showed signs of stress, and he required 4 fluids and medications to keep him stable. The antibiotics were working, but slowly, every day, a nurse would come to change his wound packing, a procedure that was excruciatingly painful. She'd remove the old, drainage-soaked gauze, clean the wound with saline, and pack in fresh gauze. pushing it deep into the cavity carved out of his shin. Jake screamed during every change. Even with pain medication, the sensation was unbearable. After the ICU, he spent 5 more days in a regular hospital room. Mia stayed with him the entire time, sleeping in a chair, ordering food from outside because she couldn't stomach the hospital meals. Their dream vacation had become a nightmare. Instead of swimming and snorkeling, they were trapped in a hospital room. Instead of romantic beach walks, they were dealing with wound care and the constant fear that the infection might return. The hospital bill was devastating, $8,000. Their travel insurance initially refused to cover it, claiming that traveling with a pre-existing infection was a violation of policy terms. Jake and his family would spend months fighting the insurance company, eventually getting them to cover $5,000, but $3,000 came out of pocket, added to the $3,000 they'd already spent on flights and hotels they never used. Jake had burned for $6,000 on a vacation that consisted entirely of a hospital room. When they were finally cleared to fly home, Jake was in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk through the airport terminal. His leg was still too damaged, too painful, too weak. The flight home was worse than the flight there. Sitting for 16 hours with an open wound was torture. The drainage soaked through his bandages twice, forcing Jake to hobble to the tiny airplane bathroom to change the packing himself. The recovery at home was long and humbling. Physical therapy was agony. The crater in his leg slowly filled with granulation tissue, but it left a massive, sunken scar, a permanent dent in his shin and a reminder of his mistake. The emotional scars ran deeper. He became hypervigilant about any cut, any blemish. Haunted by the memory of the pus and the pain, he and Mia tried to salvage their relationship. But the shared trauma had created a fissure. They had gone on the trip as carefree adventurers and returned as different people, burdened by debt and a memory of suffering instead of joy. They broke up 6 months later. Jake kept the scar, a leathery, indented patch of skin that ached when it rained. He kept the medical bills, paid off over 2 years, and he kept the lesson, learned at a cost of thousands of dollars and a piece of his leg. That the most dangerous threats on an adventure aren't always the dramatic ones. Sometimes, they are the small, ignored wounds we carry with us, and the pride that stops us from asking for help before it's too late. Jake's leg healed but left a permanent, crater-like scar and nerve damage, ending his ability to run. His relationship with Mia ended due to the trauma and the lie that started it all. A year later, Jake began sharing his story as a cautionary tale. He shows graphic photos of the infection's progression, from a tiny ingrown hair to the massive abscess and the permanent deformity it caused. He tells audiences how his vanity and fear of canceling a trip led to a life-altering infection, the loss of his girlfriend, and financial ruin. His presentation has a powerful, visceral impact, turning his personal tragedy into a public warning about the dangers of ignoring infections and the severe consequences of tropical bacteria. Jake uses his experience as a powerful cautionary tale. He presents his story to audiences, showing graphic photos of his leg's transformation from a simple ingrown hair to a life-threatening infection and permanent deformity. He emphasizes that his downfall was ignoring clear warning signs, prioritizing a vacation over his health, and exposing a wound to tropical water. The story concludes with his core message: no trip is worth risking your health. He urges people to cancel plans if they are sick, to never ignore infections, and to understand that the cost of a medical disaster is far greater than the price of a canceled vacation. The summary highlights the key lessons about responsibility, the dangers of tropical bacteria, and the profound consequences of a seemingly minor decision. That's all about our stories. Do you have any thoughts after hearing the story? Please share it in the comments below.